And we begin this morning with that breaking news we have been following all morning, the death of Fidel Castro. The dictator hadn't been seen much at all these last few years. He died last night at the age of 90. NBC's chief foreign affairs correspondent Andrea Mitchell has a look back at his life.
To his followers, he was Comandante, or just Fidel. To his enemies, a feared dictator, one of the world's last communists. The legendary firebrand began life simply, the illegitimate son of a middle-class landowner. A student radical, he graduated with both a law degree and a doctorate, tried running for the National Assembly in 1952, until Cuban strongman Batista seized power and canceled the elections. In 1953, Castro led a rebel group against Batista's military barracks and failed. Castro ended up in jail for 2 years, until an amnesty, when he went into exile. In Mexico, Castro regrouped with his brother Raúl and fellow revolutionary Ernesto Che Guevara. The three led a force back to Cuba in 1956, waging guerrilla war against Batista's corrupt regime. 2 years later, on New Year's Day 1959, they toppled Batista and marched into Havana. At first, the young leader promised democracy, telling the U.S. he was not a communist.
I came for good relation.
Meet the press in April 1959.
I am not communist. I am not agree with communists.
But almost from the start, Castro confiscated the property of the wealthy, silenced newspapers, nationalized U.S. oil refineries, and signed a pact with the Soviet Union. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy ordered the CIA to invade Cuba at the Bay of Pigs, using a force of anti-Castro exiles.
At 3:45 p.m. Wednesday, April 19th, resistance ends.
The resulting debacle only helped Castro consolidate power. By then a declared socialist, he dramatically improved health care and literacy, but also accepted Soviet missiles, bringing the superpowers to the brink of nuclear war.
Requiring a full retaliatory response upon the Soviet Union.
Until JFK's hard line and back-channel diplomacy got the Russians to pull back. For 25 years, Moscow helped Castro arm communist insurgents throughout Latin America. But with the end of the Soviet Union, Cuba's economy imploded. On makeshift boats, thousands of Cubans fled the increasingly repressive regime.
His legacy is a complicated one, but there's no forgetting how many Cubans left the island under duress.
In the 1990s, the aging ruler courted U.S. businessmen and American tourists. He showed a new tolerance for religion, welcoming Pope John Paul II in 1998. The Bush administration tightened sanctions, cutting off most travel to the island. Castro retaliated, arresting hundreds of dissidents. In Castro's final years, Cuba's economy was propped up by another leftist ally, oil-rich Venezuela. In the summer of 2006, after undergoing intestinal surgery, Fidel Castro temporarily turned over power to his brother Raúl. 2 years later, he officially stepped down and was succeeded by his brother. Fidel spent his later years writing columns about his life experiences, emerging publicly for Pope Benedict's visit to Havana in 2012, and for Vladimir Putin and China's President Xi in 2014. To the end, Castro insisted his revolution would outlive him.
If I die tomorrow morning, there will be no problem here of any sort, because there remains a nucleus of old revolutionary leaders who, without a doubt, have great authority among the people.
Still, his real legacy may be holding power for nearly half a century, longer than any other modern leader. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
Cuba will hold 9 days of national mourning, culminating with Fidel Castro's funeral on December 4th.